Aloha mai kako. You are watching Hawaii Political Reporter.
Aloha, and thank you for watching Hawaii Political Reporter. Tonight we'll have several subjects that we're covering, mostly on government transparency and also some miscellaneous news that affects us all. So let's get started. We begin tonight with NSA. We're going to go a few stories about that to show you how the continuing Orwellian nightmare is being foisted upon us. We'll start off with a story from Infowars.com dated September 16th, 2013. Yes, I know this is old, but we're kind of bringing a theme here to relate these things. This is the former NSA director advocates the Chinese-style internet. And this was basically during a speech at St. John's Episcopal Church yesterday. Former NSA and CIA Director Michael Hayden advocated a move towards a Chinese-style World Wide Web where users are forced to identify themselves before posting online content. And we're going to read a couple more sentences from this. Comparing the internet to the Wild West in Somalia, Hayden indicated that he would like to see the United States adopt a system of web policing similar to that used in communist China, where users are mandated to submit to real name registration before they can use services like Weibo, the Chinese version of Twitter. The quote-unquote, "the problem I have with the internet is that it's anonymous," remarked Hayden. So let's see how that's playing out in China. Now, this is from Reuters.com, dated, and by the way, all these stories, I'm not giving you the whole story, but I am giving you the source to go look it up. I'm kind of giving you a summary to link and to give you the overall thrust of what I believe is happening, at least to some degree. So this is from Reuters.com, dated November 28th, 2013, and this is China's rumor crackdown has cleaned the internet, official says. So China's campaign against online rumors, which critics say is crushing free speech, has been highly successful in cleaning the internet, a top official of the country's internet regulator said on Wednesday. China has the most sophisticated online censorship system known outside the country as the Great Firewall. It blocks many social media sites such as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and others, along with many sites hosted in Taiwan and those of rights groups and some foreign media agencies. So can totally control the information, control the minds, keep people ignorant, do what you will with them. And this is what Michael Hayden has essentially advocated. Yes, I know you can make some other arguments, about defamation and such as that, but the real problem and the real issue as far as the government is concerned, and you will see this as we continue on with our analysis tonight, is that the government is now being exposed when they're trying as much as possible to not be transparent. So this is the next story is from the WashingtonPost.com, and this is dated, well, it's hard to date, but I believe it's somewhere in September of 2013. This is the Obama administration had restrictions on NSA reversed in 2011. So here's our most transparent administration with all the typical BS promises, and of course this is even worse than usual. And it says the Obama administration secretly won permission from a surveillance court in 2011 to reverse restrictions on the National Security Agency's use of intercepted phone calls and emails, permitting the agency to search deliberately for Americans' communications in its massive database, according to interviews with government officials and recently declassified material. So we could continue on. You can get to the article if you want more details, but I think we all know what's happening. It's basically they're trying to throw a net around everybody, innocent, guilty, whatever, okay? Make sure they're all contained control. It's truly more frightening and worse than Soviet Russia and the Stasi because it's so much more invasive and complete in every aspect. So, in my opinion, of course. So now the next one is from the nrc.nl. This is Netherlands, obviously. And this is 23rd November 2013. And this is NSA infected 50,000 computer networks with malicious software. So now, not only is the government, trying to absolutely control us, they're actually going to our private property, or our corporations in this case, and individuals, and infecting them with software. The story goes, the American Intelligence Service, NSA, infected more than 50,000 computer networks worldwide with malicious software designed to steal sensitive information. Documents provided by former NSA employee Edward Snowden, and as seen in this newspaper, prove this. So you can go on there, but this is another, unbelievably dishonorable theft, and it's really it's a felony. I mean, this is a beyond felony. They're invading privacy, stealing trade secrets. It's unbelievable what's being done here, and it's no wonder why the opinion of the Americans worldwide has been has gone down. And thank you, Edward Snowden, seriously, for doing this, because we need to wake up and we need to get it together. This is absolutely wrong, what we've been doing overall. And it has nothing to do with the fight on quote-unquote terrorism. It never did. The terrorism is a front for control, because the hard wars, quote-unquote, were becoming more difficult to maintain the military complex. Again, that's my opinion, obviously. So, okay, now final one on this direct subject. This is from the Huffington Post, dated, I believe, 11/18 of 13. And the Supreme Court rejects NSA phone records case. So basically the Supreme Court, as usual, okay, doesn't really dare challenge the apparatus, because they're probably under threat and being threatened too. If you look carefully, I'm sure there's a lot of dirty stuff going on. Many people believe that's what happened with the Obamacare verdict with the Chief Justice there, but we leave that for another topic. So, moving on to our second topic, and this is basically directly on journalism transparency. It's all related to the first part, control the masses, control the information, dictate to us, and lie, steal, cheat, okay, and kill, okay, which is what is being happening in the country, actually, and internationally, of innocence, in most cases innocence. So this is the first one from the dailysignal.com, and this is dated June 3rd of 2014. The headline is Exclusive Cheryl Atkinson on Journalism's Very Dangerous Trend. If you're not familiar who she is, she was a reporter working for CBS, and she was bringing up aspects of the incompetence, lying, and duplicitous nature of the Obama administration, not singling them out individually, and I'm not being partisan on them, because they all do it, even though I must say the Obama seems to be the worst one to boot, definitely on another level than a lot of them. But so she was removed, and as you may or may not know, the majority of the media in this country, supposed media, is controlled. I think about 90 to 95% are owned by 5 to 6 large corporations, which of course are part of the game and are also readily muscled upon and, let's say, coerced to provide the government line, just like in China. Okay, I mean, obviously, where the information is controlled and placed exactly to what they want it to be. So anyways, this is a very good story, and we're going to go into this. This is Cheryl Atkinson, an award-winning investigative reporter who resigned from CBS News earlier this year, says the news media are heading down a dangerous path with attempts to censor or block stories that don't align with their preferred agenda. There's a tendency in the news media on the part of some managers to censor or block stories that don't fall in line with the message they want to send to the viewers, Atkinson said in an interview with the Daily Signal. I think there's a really dangerous perspective. That's a very dangerous perspective to have. In the first of 3 segments, Atkinson shared her views on journalism and life after CBS News. Her newest investigative report about oxygen trials conducted on premature babies was published in the Daily Signal today. She will serve as a senior independent contributor to the news organization, which made its debut Tuesday. So this sounds like a very good, I mean, definitely high quality journalism, and daring to bring the stories up, and push the things that is not, let's just say, preferred to be put by the powers that be. And Atkinson made headlines in March when she left CBS News after a 20-year career at the network. In subsequent interviews, she cited her inability to get her stories on the air. What I'm seeking out now, Atkinson said, is the opportunity to bring underserved stories to a broad audience through an editorial process that doesn't censor, that doesn't try to direct a story to go in a certain unnatural direction. Atkinson is writing a book due out later this year called Stonewalled, My Fight for Truth Against the Forces of Obstruction, Intimidation, and Harassment in Obama's Washington. She has criticized the administration's lack of transparency surrounding the Benghazi terrorist attack. Her critique of the White House is shared by other journalists, including former New York Times editor Jill Abramson and Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter James Reason, who faces jail time over a dispute with the Obama administration. And of course, Jill Abramson was let go. Okay, the Obama administration is attacking this, other reporter. You will see a pattern of people mysteriously dying. Okay, being pressured, okay, or simply being put out of their job and disgraced if they dare cross, okay, the great one's official lines of, official propaganda, I should say. Her critique of the White House is shared by other journalists, including we went into that. In the interview, Atkinson explained what was troubling about the news business and why she agreed to contribute to the Daily Signal. The Daily Signal promised to be a good outlet for an underserved story, in this case, the one about the baby oxygen trials, in a way that the story could naturally tell itself, and in a fearless way, because there are people who do not want to shy away from these types of stories that are critical of government or powers that be. I think these are some of the most important stories that need to be told today. So again, this is the dailysignal.com with Cheryl Atkinson. I'm sure that's going to produce some really winning, valid, useful information, and hopefully poke an eye into those who wish to suppress freedom, transparency, honesty, and the people's the people's business. Okay, border agents. Now here's the next one. So we've seen a problem, identified by one person. Now let's see some proof of that. So we're at the host. This is AP.org. This is on June 13th, and this is border agents in Texas warned not to talk to media. We're not going to get into the depth of that story. There's copyright issues with AP, etc. But again, that's basically the gist of the story. As you probably know, there's a large illegal immigrant problem coming in. We could get into the reasons, but we won't. But essentially, the Obama administration is trying to gag all knowledge and information of what's actually happening there on the ground. Again, our most transparent administration has promised, and doing everything it can to blanket and cover the situation. All right, next story, continuing on this line of wonderful transparency from our government, our federal government, is from Infowars.com, and this one is dated on June 12, 2014. The Obama administration is trying to cover up the VA scandal by issuing subpoenas to whistleblower sites. One of the most significant realizations to emerge since the Edward Snowden revelations is the understanding that we need more secure tools for would-be whistleblowers to more easily provide sensitive information in a secure and anonymous manner. As such, we have seen the deployment of encrypted drop boxes by several media outlets. I highlighted one of these a little over a year ago called Strongbox, which was a project announced by the New Yorker and was what Aaron Swartz was working on just before his death. Another one dying, possibly a hit. And this is by the way, by Michael Krieger of Liberty Blitzkrieg. And users may have noticed a button on the Washington Post homepage called Secure Drop. The new feature enables the confidential sources to contact the Post and share documents in an encrypted fashion. The Post launched this feature to offer even more security and anonymity to sources. Naturally, this sort of potential transparency and ease of exposing corruption and criminality is not welcome within the halls of government. As such, the reaction from Obama administration lawyers is to issue subpoenas for information so they can avoid cracking the encryption and the U.S. legal system altogether. Another wonderful move from our transparent administration. It's unbelievably sad what has happened to this country. Not that it hasn't been happening for decades. I mean, I would trace it back, depending how you see it, from either Teddy Roosevelt or certainly Woodrow Wilson. We have been sold out, and with few exceptions, of which I would definitely say Eisenhower and Kennedy for the most part, who were definitely honest and for the people, we have been really worked and screwed in this country. The people have been. And it's getting to the point where a lot of us are waking up and realizing this. Next story. Secret State, Trevor Paglin documents the hidden world of government surveillance from drone bases to black site. This is on the independent.co.uk, the independent newspaper in Britain. And this one is dated, I believe, 6/15/2014. And basically, secret prisons, drone bases, surveillance stations, offices where extraordinary rendition is planned. Trevor Paglin takes pictures of the places that the American and British government don't want you to know exist. So again, another thing with transparency. Some may claim, well, national security, perhaps, but also probably security of their evil villainy that is being done illegally, extra-constitutionally, immorally, and against natural law. Final story on this transparency topic is, well, not on this specific transparency topic, the next one will relate to it. The Washington Times sues Homeland over seizure of reporters' notes. This was dated November 21, 2013, and the newspaper accuses feds of unlawful search and seizure. What happens, there was a reporter working on something that may have been embarrassing or something the Obama administration didn't want out. They didn't have a way to directly get her, so what they did is they came up with an unrelated ridiculous charge, went in there and then stole, okay, the material that she was working on. So let's give a couple paragraphs of this. The Washington Times and one of its former journalists on Thursday sued the Department of Homeland Security, accusing federal agents of illegally seizing the newspaper's reporting materials during the execution of a search warrant in an unrelated case. In a motion filed in federal court in Greenbelt, the Times and reporter Audrey Hudson asked a judge to force the federal agency return all reporting files and documents it seized from Miss Hudson's home during a raid in early August. The newspaper alleged that federal agents accompanying the Maryland State Police on the raid took materials from Miss Hudson's office that were not covered by a search warrant that authorized the collection solely of evidence about guns and a potato launcher allegedly possessed by her husband, Paul Flanagan. I mean, what unbelievable. I mean, if this isn't truly the Nazi state with a soft glove, I mean, I just can't. You have to acknowledge it. How can't that be described? I mean, obviously illegal, breaking the law. How do the people in government expect us to respect the law if they totally disrespect it? I mean, that's the example and our supposed leaders. I mean, I could keep being negative here, but I'm just trying to get the information out. I'm sure you're aware of most of this. I'm giving you some specific examples, but it's very sad, of course. Now, going on to another one of great transparency, and this is a very current topic. This is related to the IRS basically hassling and harassment and illegal targeting of Tea Party and other groups, almost surely by the Democrats in Congress, if you follow this story. But specifically now we have a large obstruction of justice from one of the top people in government, in fact, the person who used to head the IRS. This is basically relating to the emails that where these things were come from, and how this began, who requested the IRS start attacking these groups, which of course is unpermitted and unconstitutional. It's and grossly unfair. I mean, and chilling. I mean, one group of power gets in, so they're going to destroy the other. I mean, this is not free speech, and this is certainly not our First Amendment rights. So this is a story from the waysandmeans.house.gov, and this is a press release dated June 13th. And this is the IRS claims to have lost over 2 years of learner emails. Okay, the IRS claims it cannot produce emails written only to or from learner and outside agencies or groups such as the White House, Treasury, Department of Justice, FEC, or Democratic offices, etc. And we could go into the depth of that story, but here's what's even possibly more chilling. What if they're actually telling the truth? And what if this was another agency covering up the NSA or who God knows who that just sucked the data out? I mean, either way, it's horribly bad, even though, of course, there should be backups. It's hard to believe they don't have this data. And, of course, if they were being honest, they could tell what's going on. Because, again, as we've learned from many things else, it's one thing to do the crime, and it's another thing to obstruct, the investigation and the justice, which is actually even more serious in many ways. Now we're going to the nationaljournal.com, and this one is dated June 13th, 2014. Did the IRS really lose lowest earners' emails? Let a special prosecutor find them. Amen. This is a very good idea. Let's go back to this and let's start looking at all these SOBs, using government for their own personal, purposes to subvert the people's business and to oppress us. Yeah, let's let them go with a special prosecutor. This is by Ron Fortier, and that's one suggestion which I think is really good. Next one, and this is a story from yourhoustonnews.com. And this is dated June 13th, 2014. And this says, Stockman asked NSA for lowest learner metadata after IRS claims glitch erased all incriminating emails. Yeah, let's use the NSA, even though, of course, they may be the one who sucked it in for some, by some request of somebody at the very top or even one of their people, because a lot of people will claim that there are elements of the government that are totally out of control and not actually being run and controlled by the supposed official puppet scheme that we have. So here's one. It's a very good article, again, from Cheryl Atkinson, which I highly suggest you check her website out, CherylAtkinson.com. This is Untouchable Subjects, Fearless Reporting. This is dated on June 14th, 2014. And this is Lowest Learners Lost Emails, Questions for the IRS. We're going to read a couple of them, but she's giving the basically good questions for the committees investigating this to ask and start pinning these lying SOBs, or I believe, I should say in my opinion, lying SOBs to the wall. Okay? So let's go with a couple of her first suggestions. Please provide a timeline of the crash and documentation covering when it was first discovered and by whom, when, how, and by whom it was learned that the materials were lost, the official documentation reporting the crash and federal data loss, documentation reflecting all attempts to recover the materials, and the remediation records documenting the fix. The material should include the names of all officials and technicians involved, as well as all internal communications about the matter. Now, there's more points. You should go to her website to read the whole thing if you're interested in this, but we're going to give you a couple more. Please provide documentation showing the steps taken to recover the material and the names of all technicians who attempted the recovery. Come on. The IRS not backing up their records? Are you kidding me? I mean, this is a whole nother level. Are they this incompetent? Well, why don't we all not pay our taxes if you guys can't keep your records? Come on, give me a break here. This is unbelievable, IRS. It's just pure BS. Next one. Please explain why redundancies required for federal systems were either not used or were not effective in restoring the lost materials, and provide documentation showing how the shortfall has been remediated. I hope the Republicans press them on this because, you know, truly, I mean, this is... I hope this opens up the whole can of worms on them. This is so ridiculous. They need to be caught in their lies. And I don't know that, you know, I mean, there's probably incredible pressure on the individuals who would be in charge of this information there. But hopefully one of them would be honest or recuse themselves or something and not go along with this. So the end paragraph in this story is House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Dave Camp, Republican, Michigan, says that along with providing news of the emails that have been lost, the IRS suggested in the same letter to Congress that it end its investigation. Oh, geez. Wouldn't that just be nice? You know, we lost the emails. Let's just forget about it. You know, give me a break. Again, on the higher standard, yeah, what if you do that for the people? Let's forget about the tax bill and all the other myriad BS laws and regulations you put in the way to squeeze people and just basically shake them down. How about that, guys? Okay, now we're on to some miscellaneous stories that are relevant and are current. First one, and this is from cnsnews.com, and this is dated June 12th of 2014. Federal tax revenue set record through May. Fed still running $463 billion deficit. Federal tax revenues continue to run at a record pace in inflation-adjusted dollars in fiscal 2014 as the federal government's total receipts for the fiscal year closed May at an unprecedented $1,934,000,000, etc., almost $2 trillion. Yet here's the key thing. Despite record revenues, the federal government still ran a deficit of $436.382 billion in the first 8 months of the fiscal year. So, of course, if you have watched any of our other episodes on the fiscal situation or look at the U.S. debt clock, now I think it's debtclock.org, I highly suggest it, you'll know that with our current indebtedness, each citizen is indebted almost $1,100,000 federally. With Hawaii, that brings us well over $1.2 million for every taxpayer. They're never going to pay this back. It's impossible. You know, it's obviously they're inflating it away. Our standard of living is going to keep deteriorating as they keep, you know, spending money ridiculously and giving it back to their buddies who pay them off, okay, to get into the office. You know, and nice little $20 million trips here from Obama, $2 million for Michelle, $5 million here or there. I mean, that's only a small part of it, obviously, but it's just incredibly wasteful throughout. And yet, in the record revenues, with less people working, what does this mean? Those who are working are being squeezed harder, and it's only the beginning. Another thing is coming, if you may know about FACTA, that is coming July 1st. There's many ways they're going to keep squeezing us, squeezing more out of us, and devaluing our currency concurrently. So another squeeze. This next story is on thedailypaul.com. This is dated 5/29/2014. A baby critically burned during a SWAT raid, stun grenade thrown in his crib. It is a multi-jurisdictional raid in Habersham County. Police barged into the home of Juanis Thamatha, I believe, at 3 a.m. During the raid, one of the uniformed men tasked with caging people for possession of substances the state deems illegal threw a stun gun into the crib of a 19-month-old baby. Now, like it or not, I certainly don't really believe in drugs. I don't use them at all, even prescription, okay? But but it's the person's right. They're not harming anybody. Here's a perfect example of much greater harm being done, okay? This little innocent child, I mean, my God, it's a 19-month-old child. all for this? What is it? It's another racket. It's incredible. I mean, we need to wake up, and we need to keep pushing people forward. As long as somebody's not harming you, leave them alone. We can't afford this. I mean, we see with the budget, we can't afford this. It's certainly not right. It's immoral, and many innocents are being hurt. Many people in jail, really not necessarily. It's very, very bad, very wrong. Next story. Soon drones may be able to make lethal decisions on their own. This is from the National Journal, dated October 8th, 2013. Scientists, engineers, and policymakers are all figuring out ways drones can be used to better and more smartly, more precise, and less damaging to civilians with longer range and better staying power. One method under development is by increasing autonomy of the drone itself. Oh, very good. So let's have the Terminator series going realistically, or let's have those we trust, okay, zilch, nada, zero, okay, program very destructive devices to rule the world. Great. This is, I hope something happens soon, because what is going on with the direction of our government and the world in general, and with these technologies, it's truly scary and ominous what could occur. Final story of the day is from the Daily Poll, dated 6/15 of 2014, and this is: a Virginia court convicts gun rights activist Adam Kokesh. A sad story indeed. Regardless of your personal feelings towards Kokesh and his antics of the past, he has shown a true belief in the cause of non-aggression and is being painted as some nut advocating violence and supporting violent government overthrow, none of which is true. Please voice your support for Adam. He does not deserve 15 years in prison, especially if the drugs found in his home are not his to begin with. So another person doing no violence to other, doing no harm to other, is being, how can I even say the word? I mean, unbelievably violated and wronged. The rest of the story: gun rights activist Adam Kokesh, who was convicted of drug and gun charges Thursday in a Fairfax County court, did not contest the allegations, but he called the raid that led to his arrest political persecution. Kokesh, 32, entered an Alford plea in circuit court to 2 felonies related to his possession of hallucinogenic mushrooms while possessing a gun. In an Alford plea, a defendant does not admit guilt, but acknowledges that prosecutors have enough evidence to obtain a conviction. Kokesh faces a maximum of 15 years in prison when he is sentenced September 5th. If you know this story, it really is highly probable that there's a political agenda here, because he's been a real thorn in everyone's side in the administration. And it's not just, he's, as you know, he's a libertarian, so he's not really for the GOP or the Democrats. He's really for freedom. It's an independent political process here. But he had roommates, and who knows if that was even his, but he has been pushing the boundaries for freedom and trying to, get the government to wake up and start acting properly, like if not even within the Constitution, with a little bit of moral decency. So Adam has a website, adamversustheman.com, and a Twitter account. Please, if you'd all feel for doing right for people, again, this is a victimless, totally victimless crime. Please support him. I will. I'll be making calls and doing emails, and I subscribe to his show. I think he's very good. I don't agree with everything he says, but he's definitely an incredibly intelligent man, advocating for the betterment of us all through nonviolent means, which is what I wholeheartedly agree with. I disagree with some of his tactics and assertions, especially relating to the police. I believe some of them are actually, trying their best to serve us. It is true they are inherently doing, in many cases, wrong, as they are essentially the executors of violence for the state, along with the military. However, that's another subject. Please support Adam and at least give him a prayer.
You, as a free, beautiful, independent human being with inalienable rights, own yourself. As a result, you can do what you want with your own body and own the product of your labor. The implication is that it is morally wrong to initiate force against someone else or their property, because to do so is to violate their rights. Therefore, all human interactions should be free of force, fraud, and coercion, and people should be free to exercise their rights, limited only by respect for the rights of others. When you learned don't hit and don't steal, it wasn't unless you work for the government. When you learned thou shalt not kill, it wasn't unless your dear leader gives you a gun and a uniform and a one-way ticket to the other side of the world. Government is force, an opinion with a gun, and force is a poor substitute for persuasion. Governments frighten us into thinking we need them, but with knowledge, philosophy, and technology, we are empowering ourselves and each other to have the courage to move past the paradigm of statism and restrain government to only moral uses of force, at least until we replace it with the cooperative, free market solutions that will soon render it obsolete.
In the system, devalue dollar, hyperinflation, the Federal Reserve, controlled by Lucifer. He can see you lying in your eye. You know can hide from Judge Jesus Christ. Hallelujah. No